Good evening, everyone. Thursday night, the 14th of September, for show or episode 101. Why 101, you ask? Not chronological order tonight. We're saving show 100 for something big. We just haven't worked out what that something big is yet. So it's coming. I can trust me. Just trust me. We will slip in show 100 as it goes to air eventually. But here we are with 101. We didn't want to spoil show 100. So 101, finals time, week number 2. There's a lot going on around the world of sport, but we thought what better time to talk about things that go with football and synonymous with footy. And in the back, you'll see the 4 and 20, the great 4 and 20 pie. Probably none better, to be honest. And here it is, the great inclusion for the night. Lovey, I would inhale this in approximately at least one bite, I'd expect. And Cuz, I'm not certain whether it'd even break up in that trap of yours, mate. It'd just sway out straight through. Or you might be a party pie man. Let's find out. Let's bring the boys up for a quick chat. How are you, boys? Welcome back.
Hi, mate. How are you?
Good.
Good evening.
The great pie debate.
Good evening. I like it.
Boys, what can you tell me, Lovey? It's been an interesting week around the world.
Yeah, look, we'll get to pie stuff later, the good stuff.
Correct.
I'll verify some fact or some information you just divulged about my eating capability later on. But yeah, it's very, very some controversial things have occurred, obviously, and also one or two mishaps that have cost certain franchises in world sport a lot of cash this week. So I'll dive onto those later on. But yeah, needless to say, I mean, based upon the name I've put up tonight, that'll be my Lovey loses it a little bit. Not for probably the reasons many people are thinking. It's not player directed. It's at organisation level.
Yep. Righto. Look forward to that chat shortly. Cuz, how's your week been, mate? I did an episode Tuesday night with with a young man from South Australia, which was a great episode. Matt Ward. It was a great chat. If you boys get to have a listen later on, but tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world, mate, from the last week of renovations.
Yeah, just living the dream, mate. We're trying to organise some bench tops, which is just. So Jack, as you both know, my oldest son is pretty funny. He goes, "Dad, it can't be that fucking hard. Just get a bench top." And I said, "Okay, Mr. Handyman." So him and I might be going for a little venture down to IKEA tomorrow, which will be a bit of fun, bit of father and son bonding time.
Right.
Could go
Bit of Swedish influence into the house, mate.
Could go pear-shaped real quick. Real quick.
What's wrong with Bunnings, mate? Get down there. Support your local.
Yeah.
What you like because they're struggling.
Yeah. Yes.
Look, we're pretty close to getting on the market, so hopefully in the next probably wait a couple of weeks, probably do it a week after grand final go on the market.
Yep, beautiful. Good to hear it's all progressing in the right direction.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right, we're it's Is it pie time yet? Where are we kicking off first, boys? Do we want to have this chat first, or do we want to go with
talk about the chat, don't we?
Do we want to
Let's get. I reckon we get positive with pies. Let's go. Let's go with the pies.
Righto. All right. We're just
Let everything else go downhill after that, I reckon.
Just happens to be that we've got a special guest tuning in tonight too. This man's probably eaten a couple of pies in his day, no doubt. And it's not me, boys, for once. We need to bring him on. You boys have met him before. Here he is, your coach of the Melbourne Ice, Mr. Terry Gooch Goulet. Welcome back, Gooch.
Oh, yes, I've had a few pies, guys. Great to see you, Alan, Glenn.
Gucci, how are you, mate?
Hello, Gooch.
I'm fantastic. A little annoyed that I see number 99 Gretzky up there, but I don't see a number 29, for God's sakes. Jesus, come on, Aaron.
I sold that.
Sold it.
Yep, absolutely. Sold it for a
Oh,
fortune.
boy.
I bought the house. Thanks,
Who
Gooch.
knew? Who knew?
Exactly. All right, Gooch,
How you guys doing?
we're going to kick off this episode tonight with the great pie debate and the discussion in relation to pies. Our great game of AFL is synonymous with the 4 and 20 pie, the big meat pie. Here we go. This is it. If you haven't seen one, this is what you're about to get your hands on. And there's no better opportunity than it comes in this great 4-pack of real pies. So get on that if you haven't already. All right, let's talk about meat pies in general, first of all. I need to go around the room here and just in respect of, are we talking normal size pie or are we party pies, men? Where are we? And is it a round pie or a square pie? What's the shape? Or is it the Traveller that's come out recently?
I'll start off really, really quickly here.
This is going
to be, let's just knock this on the head. Anyone that thinks that a square pie is actually a pie is an absolute dickhead. Seriously, you cannot have a square pie. There's no such thing as a square pie. That's just moronic. So for me, let's just get the shape sorted. It's round. Every day of the week, every bloody Sunday. Now, I get the party pies are more rectangular. That's fine. That's all right. That's not a real pie anyway. It's a round pie. It's got to be round. Has to be round. That's it. Square pie.
Yeah, I'm with got to be. You can't have a square pie. Got to be a round pie. I'm with Lovely on that.
Righto, Gooch, what's your thoughts? What happens over in Canada, mate? Talk to me about pies.
Well, it's got to be round and it's got to strawberry or apples in our creation of it. I think got to be round, Alan and Glenn, no question. And the pies are not as big. Hot dogs are bigger than pies over there. So let me just kind of put it in perspective.
Hot dogs, you said?
Hot dogs are hamburgers, hot dogs. When you go to a ball game or a basketball, baseball, football, any hockey game, hot dogs are the number one sellers.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Now we talk about filling. Let's talk a little bit about that filling. What makes up the perfect pie? Who wants to kick us off there? I'm going to go to you, cuz.
Got to be chunky beef in a pie.
Always?
Oh, yeah, always. Yeah. Oh, what's going on there?
That's a bit of a veggie special. And we've got the classic beef pie.
Yep.
Can't forget your shepherd's.
Shepherd's pie.
Yep, that's an absolute
Love
must.
it.
And we
shepherd's pie.
We definitely did dismiss the old party pie, the old special. But the issue with the party pie, I'll give you my little inkling here that you just eat way too many of them. Like a normal pie, okay, you can deliver at that, but the party pie comes in like an 18 pack, and by the end of a couple of quarters, the 18 are gone, and you're shaking the packet out, they're gone.
You feel compelled to have the whole lot, right?
Absolutely, they're little bite size. It's trouble. It's like the dim sim debate that we had not long ago. Plenty of episodes ago now, but it's a challenge. The old pie, for sure.
Now, in terms of the filling. With my food, I'm a traditionalist. So when I like a chicken pie. Chicken pie is really good. That's got to be done properly, though. When I see all these wanky things like a curry pie or something like that, I'm just there's no. I can't have that. I can't cop that. It's just not a proper pie. A curry is nicely dished over either some plain rice, coconut rice, basmati, whatever it is. Does not belong in a pie. Curry does not belong in a pie. Okay. And I saw one the other day. It was like, what was it? Tandoori pie. I mean, my goodness me. The other one I actually really can't stand is fish pie. I saw fish pie. I can't think of anything worse. Really, it's just off. It's actually it's just really bad. It'd be like eating a tray of I don't know, trifle or some crap like that. So or tripe. So for me, it's got to be a traditional beef. I'm with Cuz. It's got to be a traditional beef. None of that. Not too much gravy. Can't have too much gravy because it takes away from what you actually meant to be eating in the first place.
Yep.
Right? So minimal gravy, lots of meat, preferably beef. Don't mind the chicken.
What about the chunks? Talk to me about the chunks and the
That
peas,
looks horrific.
the carrots.
That doesn't look
That's a
right.
homemade special. Guys, that looks like one from your house that you cooked up a couple of weeks ago.
It does. It actually does. Thank you very
You
much.
say from his garden.
What about your favourite, Cuz? Have you strayed outside the beef pie?
Oh, I don't mind a bit of when you get the old the pepper pie, beef and pepper maybe.
Yep,
Beef and a
absolutely.
bit of pepper. But yeah, just the beef, the steak pie is pretty good, mate. Hard to stuff it up.
Righto. All right, let's cover off. Obviously, on the meat pie, generally is our staple. Let's talk sauce. Now, it's a big range. It's a big category here, boys. It's a big category. What do you got for me, Lovey? What's your favourite? Is it a brand or is it a method as far as how it goes on, or does it go? Well, I'll bring the next question up later. Give me that one first. What's your brand and what's the shape of the bottle?
So again, anyone that's a wanker outside tomato sauce, all right, you're a wanker. So it's tomato sauce only, and look, you can't go past Heinz. Now, I don't know which ones are Australian anymore. I don't particularly care, but Heinz for me, that's exactly the one I like.
The one.
That is a spot-on one.
The big shake. Give it the shake.
Yep, that is exactly it, mate. That's the one.
Yep. What about you, Cuz? Do you stray outside?
Yeah, gotta go to Heinz. Are you a lid off, boys? Do you take the lid off the pie? Put the sauce on the meat, lid back on.
Good question. Come back to that one in 2 seconds. All right, let's stay on the sauce for 2 secs.
Okay.
So, shape a bottle. Is this you, Cuz, or are you the old turn top job?
No, you got to have the shaker. Need the shaker. Squirt out. A lot easier.
And what about?
I love this. I did used to love the squirter where you would squirt it. You had guests at the table, and the squirter at the end just wasn't quite clear enough.
Yes.
And a bit like when you go and take a piss every now and then, it just misfires off somewhere else, and someone else has to wear it. They're the best. That's the best time.
Well, the last person that used it, they left a little bit of sauce blocking it, so just go off at right angles.
Yep.
Beautifully.
Or the classic you get if you don't shake the bottle, and you're first up, so you've cracked the case, and then you squirt, and it's just terrible water that just shouldn't be near your pie. What is that?
Yep.
So that should be banned. There needs to be a filter. There's a challenge. It should be a filter, or just shake it. Just the bottle.
If you want to do it properly, you just know you got to shake.
Shake well, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
like
what it says.
Like gamble responsibly, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right.
Now
we're gonna. Yeah. Cuz, your question.
Are we lid off, sauce on, lid back on, or do you eat the lid then eat with the sauce?
No, don't fuck around with it. Chuck it on the top and just eat it as is.
You got to go traditional like this. Straight on, in the
Straight
go.
in.
In you go, mate. Yeah, there's no mucking around.
There's no guarantee the lid's going to come off in one piece.
You don't play with the lid and then eat the meat and then half eat the lid, and it's just a mess. Come on, kids. Get used to the program here.
Simple process.
Yeah.
I'm going to test you. I'm going to test you too, and anyone else that's out there that could be bothered watching this segment. Now, you've got 420 in the background there, Az.
Yep.
It's a manufactured pie. Let's face it. Where is the best pie? Where have you had the best pie in Victoria or Australia? It could be anywhere, but can you recall your favourite meat pie?
Hyde's Bakery in Benalla.
Okay.
Great question. Yeah, it's everyone's got a favourite spot, haven't they, for pies for sure. We're going to bring Gooch up in a minute and get a pie preference, and also where his favourite pies come from. So for me, Glenroy Bakery. Look it up, boys. It's in a little pocket. Not far from
Bakery. That was very specific.
It's very much so. A good sponsor of Glenroy Footy Club too, absolutely. But they're, mate, superstar pies, just some of the best. Honourable mentions to Brian's Pies in Bell Street. That's one of the greats too. But there's plenty of good pie shops. Sneaking under the radar is not just pie shops, but bakeries. They're where the challenge is.
So the best place I've had a pie, as you're going through the middle of Victoria, or you're starting to, you get to a place called Yay. And there's a Yay Bakery. It's just called Yay Bakery. It's really imaginative in the they literally, their pies, you can almost tell that they were made from scratch right there and then, including the pastry, the whole lot. And just this thing, the pastry was thick and solid as a base, the meat chucked over the top of it. And it just looked like a marriage. Just looked like a really happy marriage. And I had the shepherd's pie, I had the privilege of having the jumbo shepherd's pie one day. And I've never had a better shepherd's pie or just a pie anywhere else. And I said to myself, I'll never, ever eat a manufactured pie ever again after that. And I haven't.
Yeah, fair call.
So I haven't touched a 420 pie in 12 years.
Oh, you're missing out.
Refuse to.
They're going back to the roots, mate. The original recipe. It's like KFC. Might be owned by someone else. Who cares? All about the 12 herbs and spices. So, or 11. I've put 12, haven't I? Cuz, where's your favourite, mate?
Oh, so as I said, Hyde's Bakery in Benalla, mate. Just
right,
beautiful. Just magnificent. Just a really good, like Lovely said, like a good marriage. Good pastry base, plenty of meat.
Yep.
Nice. Not burnt.
Good sponsor.
Which is very important. Not to burn it.
Yep. Right. I'm just gonna quickly go back to the shepherd's pie for a second. Tough one to get right, Lovey. Because it's about how much mash, how much meat, are the peas in, peas out, carrots in. What's the method? It's tough to get it right.
So the one I had up at Yay had carrots and peas.
Yeah.
Very few, very little. They didn't saturate, and that was the whole point. That was really good. And what I loved about it, felt like it was 2/3 meat, 1/3 potato.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it was predominantly meat, good thin layer of spuds across the top, and it was brilliant. Loved it.
All right.
Yeah, you got to get the mash right.
We're going to bring on the great man Gooch to talk to us about his preference on pies, and also where around the world has been his favourite pie. He's the jet setter. You tell us where's your best, Gooch?
I can't believe I'm on a show with you three guys talking about pies. I have made it. I know now I have made it. Listen, I got a couple quick comments. You know, it takes me a long time, but I got to agree with the shepherd's pie. You have to have baked on cheese. Like it's got to be almost burnt on top. A third mashed potatoes and 2/3 with meat. No question. My mom used to make it, and only peas. Carrots doesn't cut it. It just doesn't make it. But there's my shepherd's pie. As far as going to your traditional pies, I got really lucky. I'm going to say it's about 5 years ago. I was going out to see Jonathan Cornford at Nary Warren, I think it's called, and I needed some gas. So I stopped to get gas, and I was starving. Like I needed something to eat. And it was called a Country Cob Bakery. I actually looked it up because I could remember how good this was. And my favorite is steak, cheese, and mushroom. And I know you guys use ketchup. Heinz ketchup is one of the best. But our favorite, and I haven't had it here, it's actually made in Canada. It's called French ketchup. It is, next time I come, I'm going to bring some French ketchup, or as you guys say, tomato sauce. So that's where I found my best pie.
Love it. Nice, Gooch. Nice.
I'm concerned about the infused cheese into the pie. I like the cheese on top of the shepherd, but to have the cheese inside,
I meant on top. I meant
okay.
We used to bake it, and it almost had that brownie burnt feeling on top, and you had to crunch to get in. Loved it.
Yeah,
tough with mushrooms too. Tough to get right. It's a balance.
You got to cook them before you put them in the pie.
Yeah. All right. That was our meat pie discussion. Now let's just talk. There's plenty of other pies out there, boys. There's savoury pies. Let's just cover off one or two others. And Lovey, I know you're a straight bat, right? You play the straight bat. You don't stem outside of the formula. But is there another pie that you've even looked at, tasted, want a piece of, or eat again?
I'll be real quick. Yeah, chicken pie's about my variant. That's it.
Yeah,
you can shove your pumpkin pie. You can shove your fish pie. You can shove any other pie anywhere up your clacker. I don't care. For dessert, I'll have an apple pie as well. That's it. Done.
Yeah, righto. Cuz.
Yeah, but both my nans are really good cooks, and they both made the best apple pies. Just amazing. The bit of cream or ice cream was magnificent as a kid growing up. It was just beautiful. It was gold.
Absolutely. Gooch, have you got one for us, the pie man?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's apple crumble, so it's kind of the same. Not really a pie. With vanilla ice cream, guys. You can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep. Let it sit there. Let it sit there for a minute. Just, perfect.
Shit. Hey, I got to go to the fridge now.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
And I must admit, this is it for me, boys. This is one honourable mention for the blueberry, and mixed berries pie that serves as a dessert. Incredible, boys. Nothing better than pastry followed up by pastry. How am I going? We'll drop some kilos here.
You guys have rhubarb?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Apple and rhubarb.
Yeah. Apple and rhubarb. Yep.
Pie. Rhubarb. Don't eat too much because you'll be sitting on the toilet. But rhubarb pie is absolutely to die for. Yeah. And you would die if you're sitting on the toilet, as long as I did once.
Is this you, Gooch?
That's it. That is made in Canada. That is the real deal. And you know what? The actual Heinz ketchup, which I really love too, they went on strike in Canada. People would not go to Loblaws or the big stores, IGAs, as you know them here, or Kohl's or Woolies, and go and buy Heinz ketchup because they moved their factory out of Leamington, Ontario, over the border to the States. And they were using Canadian tomatoes and making them in the States. And there was a big, huge scandal. And we actually boycotted Heinz, and French was the only one to go. So who knew? Crazy.
And you don't do things by halves. Obviously, your size of your coffees, Gooch, are the big boys, right?
Can I just say, because we're talking about coffee or for pies for a sec, guys, I love you guys. You know that. And I just love everything about Australia. Melbourne's been great to me, the coffee capital of the world. Holy macalarchy. The length it takes to make a coffee a long black is ridiculous. I walk into a Tim Hortons in Canada. I got a coffee in 30 seconds. This size, seriously, extra large, $1.80. So that would be like $2. And I could drink 5 of them. Here, I can only drink 1 because my heart palpitates, and it's $6 a pop. I can buy $30 a day on coffee.
Gooch, you know what? Yeah, look, Gooch, over here in Australia, mate, what we really endorse is you got to pay to actually make yourself really unhealthy very, very quickly. That's actually what we do here.
Yeah.
And a shout out to Gooch's coffee sponsor, 7-Eleven, where he loves it. All the coffees.
You know what? They're no longer $1. They've gone to $2.
Yeah, I know. They found out Gooch was buying too many. All right. That was a great pie debate. It was an interesting chat. It was just something that we can break up our little show about. But we're going to talk. I think, Lovey, we're going to kick off with you next, and what happened during the week, and we want to touch on the multi-million-dollar deal that just went pear-shaped. So before we do, we're going to bring up this.
What's gonna make our friend Lovey mad today? Lovey loses it, Lovey loses it,
Righto, Lovey. Give it to us.
Okay. So, I'll be really, really quick on Qantas, first of all. So, just a real quick sharp stab at them. We know that little pygmy, that little Irish pygmy is fettered off into the distance and is trying to escape as much scrutiny as he possibly can and not have to pay back his bonuses on behalf of all the 1,700 workers that he sacked. That won't happen. I'm sure that the law and anyone else will catch up with him. What I find offensive and what I find completely irresponsible and inappropriate is the nepotism in corporations, and that includes sporting organisations. Probably the main theme of my crack the shits thing tonight. How can you have the person who was the CFO under Alan Joyce in his full tenure all of a sudden become the CEO, and then you tell me that there's some impartiality to the decisions that were made that have got Qantas in the flap that they are right now? Not just the 1,700 workers, denying Qatar Airways a chance to participate in the market, amongst 3 or 4 other things at least that have come out in the last week. How does the person who is sitting by his right side now become the person in charge, and people are meant to trust that process moving forward? That's absolutely horrific. So that's Qantas. And I'm sure and I assume that that person will also be moved on once a proper review is done. I can't wait, surely. And I know the federal government will come to the show on that. No. So then that leads me to another corporation, the AFL. And we'll touch on later on about the whole Maynard scenario and the concussion and should he, shouldn't he, and all the rest of it. What I find funny about that is that the new football operations manager, Laura Kane, decides on her own to step into the process and manipulate it and give Maynard 3 weeks, only for a tribunal to then find him not guilty based upon their own evidence. Why did Laura do that? I don't know. No one knows why. But I find it completely ridiculous now. The AFL has been chasing its tail on head-high contact for the last 5 years. And now they've opened up a brand new Pandora's box for footballers, hence the name I brought up tonight. Technically, the AFL now endorses a bloke acting like a human missile and call it accidental. It's a football act. Where is the AFL going with all these decisions they made around head-high contact? Gil McLachlan has been on his high horse for about this for 3 years. And he's got it wrong at nearly every turn, because we're still talking about head-high contact. In nearly every other code I can think of, head-high contact, it is absolute. It is concrete. You will cop suspension, you will cop fines, whatever. In the AFL, it chops and changes every half year, and it's just ridiculous. And the reason I say that is because the reason I have no confidence the AFL are going to solve this is because the Muppets that were sitting under Gill at the time, when all these decisions are being made, are now going to be in charge once Gill decides to move on. Andrew Dillon is not going to change what he does. And Laura Kane was also in that room when all those decisions were made. If the AFL wanted to make a fresh start and the AFL wanted to make this thing completely go away and make it absolutely clear cut, Dillon shouldn't be in the role. Laura Kane shouldn't be in the role. And in fact, it's nepotism in the AFL once again. It's not just a boys' club anymore. That's fine. It is just a club. And there's no one scrutinising the decisions that they've been making on their head-high contact stuff. They just make it up as they go. And this is why we're in the shit show we are now again with the Maynard Brayshaw scenario. Nepotism at the AFL level is the root cause of all these sort of things in the first place. Got to get rid of that. If you don't, then we'll just keep going around in circles again. It'll be a suspension in round 3 next year, and then it won't be because you don't want someone to miss a grand final. That's just the way it works. That's the way it looks. And we are not fair income at AFL House. And until such time we are, we have to keep serving up this shit. They'll keep serving up this shit to us.
Yeah. Look, I think I can't remember who said it during the week, but it was very much a landmark decision, this one, I think, on what happened with Maynard. Now,
100.
Yeah, it was about a guy that's had continuous concussions, or multiple concussions, I should say. Yes, admittedly, his last concussion was 6 years ago. Now, that was the moment where. What's your opinion on that? On this discussion first, Lovey, is just go with me on this one. That the second Maynard goes to leave the ground, where's his duty of care? And that's what they talk about, right? And that's going to be the big statement, obviously. But I can't believe this case got dismissed so quickly in respect of just in really pretty much in legal jargon. But the second he leaves the ground, what's his duty of care? You've played enough footy, mate. And I know it's a split-second decision. I get that. But the second he makes the call to leave the ground, what's your duty of care there on who's below you effectively?
So Ross Lyon asked a really good question Monday night. Where does your responsibility start? That's a great question. So for me, we've all looked at it. We've been told a number of times by both the tribunal, by the review panel, by the laws of the game itself, that when you make a secondary action, that is when your duty of care presents itself. So yes, he went to smother the football. Now, he's put himself in an awkward position by doing that. That's part of the sport, and I get that. But then when we've been told that when you make a secondary act and the football is no longer in the area, which it wasn't, and he dived into Brayshaw the way he did, we've been told that the consequence has to be that that's on you. I found it hilarious that they actually tried and so successfully it was swallowed up. That somehow it was Brayshaw because of his kicking style, and then he veered into Maynard's path. That Brayshaw somehow had, it's almost insinuating that Brayshaw actually had a duty of care for Maynard whilst in the action of kicking. Yeah. Now, for me, that's just legal nonsense, right? Yeah. It's legal nonsense, and lawyers should never actually be allowed in these things ever again. And I think they are going to do a review of how they go about their tribunal process, and as they should, but it should be done by people that aren't actually attached to the current process. So for me, Maynard, based upon what we've been told in the last 2-3 years, should have gone. Now, I thought they would have gone for a week because I can't believe the AFL would actually think that it's okay to knock someone out senseless when, what did Zach Merritt do earlier in the year? He copped 2 weeks or a week. Sicily, same thing. Dangerous tackles. I mean, the dangerous tackle debate all of a sudden now rears up. It's accidental. It's just incidental. I mean, this is called an accident, an incidental contact that's now been let off. So where does that put the dangerous tackle thing in? You know, like when are we going to get fair income about the head high stuff? Are we just going to completely outlaw the thing altogether? Yep. Or is it going to be case-by-case basis of which you will constantly keep on having these debates? Yep. He should have gone because there was a secondary motion after he smothered. That's tough. It sounds like it's really rough because it's a split-second thing. Yep. But that's what we've been geared to. He made a secondary motion. He bumped into him. Should have gone based upon precedent. He didn't.
Yeah. All right. We've got a couple of other guests too, which we're going to bring up for a conversation on this because it's a really important topic. And Gooch, we know well, obviously involved with Stop Concussions. Understands it from a whole stack of other avenues and where we need to be, where the game really needs to be wary of what the hell they're setting as precedents now, given what we know. We didn't know this years ago. Now what we know, we just can't be there anymore. So, Cuz, just interested in your opinion before we bring up our next special guest for an opinion, and then we're going to bring Gooch in.
Yeah, look, I'm with Lovey. I thought it was amazing that they were trying to pin it on Brayshaw and his body movements and his kicking action. As Lovey said, once you leave the ground and you have a secondary action, you're going to suffer the consequences of what your action is. That's what we've been told all year.
So what I want to get from your opinion, Cuz, you've been playing as a backman, okay? You played backman majority of your career when you weren't on the bench. But tell us a little bit about coming forward, that motion of coming forward to smother, the decision then to leave the ground, and then what do? You're setting, obviously that happens so quickly, right?
You get yourself in a dangerous territory because once you leave the ground, you can't control what you can do in a way, can you? Because you've left the ground. So you've lost that base. Yeah. So once you choose to leave that base, you're up and you're, oh, shit, where am I going?
Yeah. Well, someone even said to me that Brayshaw should have, when he went to jump, Brayshaw should have ran around him I was like, mate, his head was down the whole time. He didn't even see him until it was too late. He was in his face. So it's just a crazy kind of conversation.
Just one last thing before you bring on the guest. So everyone became a neuroscientist on social media this week. That was pretty funny.
Absolutely,
But one of the things the tribunal are going to have to sort out, or the rules of the game, is this whole fanciful notion of a football act. Not defined. It's not in the rules.
Yep.
Football act is actually not defined in the rules. And then everyone all week, so many people were jumping online and carrying on my pork chop saying it was a football act. It was a football act. You're going to have to define that because by saying it's a football act, you're actually talking shit. There's no such rule. There's no such defined law in the game that says football act. So I think the AFL needs to really stump up and get some clarity around what it is they exactly want.
Yep.
That's either legal, not legal to do on a footy field, and that includes the head-eye contact. They have to do it ASAP.
Yep, absolutely. And what's been dragged into the debate now is the part that we love about our game, the high-flying mark, where you go and leave the ground and you make incidental contact with a knee into someone's head who gets concussed. What happens there? So it's opening a whole nother can of worms. I'm not saying who's wrong or right here in this discussion, but it just brings a whole new layer of confusion.
Tom Lynch this year went for a mark and got cited initially, then let off, and so he should.
Yeah, absolutely. EJ, good friend of ours and personal work colleague of mine, exactly the same. He's just mentioned that exact comment about what happens then, in that case. So, all right, we're going to bring on another opinion, then we're going to bring the Gooch in for a chat on the game of concussion or the world of concussion now, and how really balanced or not balanced. It's not balanced. That's probably the point in the argument. It's really in a point of this could go one way or another. This could either get ugly legally now and continue to, or we can set a precedent that we can kind of move forward. It's a really defining kind of moment in sport, I reckon. Not just this incident, but right now with where concussions is. So let's bring him on. South Australia's finest. We've had this boy on before, and he actually thinks the Blues are going to win it this year. And before we do, here we go.
Credibility shot already.
Well, one of Cuz's finest videos.
So you're telling me there's a chance? Yeah!
While you're still in it, you got a chance, and that's all that matters. Righto, Sam Trapolino, welcome, mate. Welcome back after so many episodes.
How are we, boys? Good time to be here. Lovey, how's your team going?
Next.
Just thought we'd clear that up, because I guess we're still talking. Glenn, how you doing?
I'm good, Sam. How are you, mate?
I'm loving that growth. I'm loving that.
Like it? Thank you.
I do.
Lovely loves it too.
So
you're the only one in Australia that's actually complimented it.
We thought we'd bring Sam in to let us know, the real way you grow a beard, just for you, cuz. Because I know the jury's out, mate. I know you're in growth mode.
Fucked, honestly, why do you just go and get fucked?
Hang on a second. Righto, Traps.
Are we going to beeper?
Righto, Traps. Give us your thoughts on that incident in particular, and then we're going to bring Gooch on for a round table kind of discussion in relation to concussion.
Tough one. If you're just a footy tragic, you say that it's just a bad incident. Brayshaw, I feel for him. And I feel for the AFL because the moment they rule on this one, if they go and they rule out Maynard, it opens so much on the game. Like you say, it takes out the high mark. It takes out really any time you're going to leave the ground. When your first intention is to spoil the ball, if your first intention is to mark the ball and you need someone in the back of the hand, you take the head now. As soon as we have a big injury, that's when we get to this. All the near misses, they don't go into play. I don't, like Lovey was saying, if you're bringing lawyers in, this will get really, really messy. And if you don't, then no one's going to protect the body. I think it was the Enforcer movie with NHL, and they basically said to the doctors, they gave the playing rules of the NHL to these doctors and said, make the game safe. And, how do you do that? You can't. When you're talking high speeds, when you're talking elite athletes moving and big bodies, we're not going to have people all get out scot-free, and we're going to have these, someone's got to be to blame. And that's where we're at. It's a real sticky one at the moment. I see all sides, but it's either we're going to stuff up footy, which in the end kind of has to happen if the benefit of the person is the main thing. If it's a straight out workplace, then we can't allow people climbing scaffolding without having rigging on. Like, the moment those accidents happen is when you come up with a new procedure how to stop it, and this workplace is no different. So I think footy's in for a huge overhaul at the moment, because there's a lot of people going to be out for blood for either side.
Yeah, look, I think we're really lucky tonight to have Lovey. Obviously your background in compliance. That's an interesting part of what's your duty of care here, and is that involved really at all? And obviously, Sam, your background with OH&S, and effectively what role both the AFL play, the Players Association here, and their duty of care as these players come in, and then you've got your legal debates. So we're super lucky. I'm going to bring Gooch in. Where it's fantastic to have Gooch with us tonight, because this is a really poignant conversation. Obviously, it has been for a long time, but we're lucky to kind of be able to debate this. So let's bring Gooch on from Stop Concussions Foundation, based in Canada, but some incredible people here. Gooch the reason he knows it is because he's lived it and he's still living it, the world of concussion. Let's bring him in. Gooch, thanks for joining us again, mate.
Shameless plug.
Absolutely. Great read.
I think I could go on record. I'm the only author of a book, you can see my name there, of a book on this panel that didn't get to grade 12 by passing grade 6 twice. And it does not come with crayons, guys. Listen, great
I can't read it
conversation.
then.
Great to have, obviously, Sammy, my buddy, obviously ambassador for Stop Concussions on. I know we make a little bit of fun of this and we laugh and joke, and it's not as serious as people sometimes think it is, guys. It is really serious. And I think it was you, Glenn, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was you, Alan, that made the statement. We have these neuroscientists now on Twitter, which is now called X, and they make these profound statements. And if you give me, I know I could talk a lot, so I won't steal the show. I want to tell you, I got to read this to you. I don't know if you've seen it, but I'm going to read it to you because I don't know how to put it up. Alan Pierce is one of the best concussion experts in Melbourne, probably in all of Australia, probably in the Southern Pacific. And he has been an advocate, pounding the pavement, saying, guys, we've got to protect our athletes better. And so we put a tweet out, people were making comments. And here's one that I have to read, and I'll read it quickly. Alan made a statement, and then the gentleman came back and said, I think what would be better than rigid helmets would be padding, maybe like Jonathan Thurston uses. I'm pretty sure that would help, as it would produce less acceleration of the brain tissue because the force will be slowed down by less fast cushioned. You could easily test the difference by banging your head on a table first with a pillow wrapped around your head or without. Then you would see the difference. I don't think it would hurt as much with the pillow on your head than without. They may need to use this testing to figure this problem out. Are you kidding me? Somebody get me a pillow. It drives me absolutely crazy. The problem is, guys, we've got to change the culture. The culture has to change. I like a fight. I like banging and crashing. The problem is we can't stop the brain from moving inside the skull. So we need to find a safe way of playing these sports. Some of them may not. If we don't, guys, I know you don't want to hear this. We need to know it. Before I leave this planet, sport will definitely change, because the insurance companies are going to take this over. They're going to say, hey, we've given you 25 years to figure this out. You're not figuring it out. In your country right now, there are 14 and 15-year-old boys that are suffering concussions at the highest rate ever, at 3.8% of every kid that's playing. When you do the numbers, those are large. If you guys, and I know you do, they think that 70 to 80 players this year in the AFL, which has 820 players, will have suffered a concussion, and most of them will not report them. It's a big problem. I'm not going to say it's a pandemic, it's an epidemic, and we need to do more. And doing shows like this and having qualified guests like what you have, we are on the right track. But everybody, wake up. Why can't we get the players, the referees, the fans to understand the gladiator approach to sport? Unfortunately, we all love to see blood and guts. Look at all the movies that we watch. But the fact is, these are human lives, and we are damaging our brains at an alarming rate. Please, everybody wake up. Let's get around a table. Everybody sit down. It's the best investment the AFL and the NRL can do is by bringing all of these associations, management, administration. You mentioned lawyers. Bring the lawyers in. Bring a doctor. Bring a dentist, if all I care. Bring players, coaches, parents all around a table, and let's build a concise plan to keep your sport, AFL and NRL, healthy, and my sport, hockey, ice hockey, football, and the one big sport that people don't even talk about, lacrosse, #1 concussed sport in the United States right at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Gooch, just tell us a little bit about what we're about to launch, mate, in relation to concussed, and why we're doing this, and what what the kind of thing we're going to do by launching this, and who we're going to have on.
Well, obviously your guests see the panelists that we have here tonight. They know that obviously we need to solve the problem with the issues that we've all suffered playing the game. I know we make light of it. I lived it, as you know. I went through suicidal thoughts during my career. It was a very dark time. We wrote the book called Cuss. We're on the pathway of rewriting this and bringing in. These are stories. This was written in 2010. It was talking about how we were damaging our brains and what we need to do to fix it. So this book, written by myself and a guy named Keith Primo, who aren't doctors, realized that we were doing damage to our brains and we had to do something about it. Since 2010, we've regressed. We haven't gone forward. We've gone backwards. You know why? Because everybody's trying to sweep it under the rug. So I started a program called Concussed after the book. It's Understanding the Invisible Injury. And I think that's what we need to do. And Alan and Glenn, when you brought up the idea of these people coming and making comments, silly comments. There's another comment, and I think I will not mention any names. I don't want to create any lawsuits, but there was somebody that came out in the paper and in the press a couple of weeks ago and said, everybody in the AFL has to wear a helmet. Why are we complicating this? That we know that the helmet does nothing. It's a myth. The helmet was designed in 1960 for ice hockey to prevent the stick of breaking open the skull. It had nothing to do with the concussion itself. So I decided to get rid of these myths and start telling people what it really is about. If you don't play, you guys have all played. You guys know when you get a dinger and you get, you feel like the world is spinning. When you feel that for 1 day, 4 days, 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 months, a year, 5 years, you'll start understanding that we need to do something about it. And so I'm really excited about it. It was Aaron pushing me forward, and I know you guys will be coming on it soon. We're going to start the Concussed podcast. I think when I launched it 2 years ago, it was in COVID. It got really good reviews. The problem was I just didn't have enough viewership. So I think now, especially what's going on here in Australia and New Zealand, we know that there is an appetite not to sensationalize this. Obviously, CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, we know it's here. We know it's real. Just recently, I'm sure you guys read it. Alan Pierce had mentioned that Heather Anderson from the AFL Women's had passed away. They had seen in her head or in her brain as she donated it to the Australian Brain Institute here. They found that she had CTE in it. This is real. This is now, and we all need to get proper information that is not a myth, not just pulling it out of Twitter space and saying, hey, I'm a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I am not. But you know what I am? I'm a survivor. I've been through this. I have been at the edge where I almost took my life. I know what I'm talking about, and I do not want people to go through what I've gone through and what we're seeing now play out in front of our faces on TV, in the radio. We're all debating it. There's no debate. We're killing our young men and women. Let's stop it. We did it when people realized secondhand smoke was not a good thing for our kids. So we figured out how to stop it. So I think that's where we are right now.
Lovey, when we were back doing Gooch Live, Aussie style and stuff, we approached David Parkin to come on, especially when all the concussion stuff was going nuts. And you had, who's the lawyer, Peter Jess, all through the news and things like that. Parkin didn't want to come on the show because as soon as he put his name up to anything with stop concussions, that, he knew the Melbourne media was going to go nuts. And the one thing he did leave us with was that he's on the AFL Commission for Concussions, and they hadn't met since 2017. And we were talking to him pre-COVID. So I can't assume they've met anytime sooner. So like Gooch is saying, it's, they know it's going to change their game. They know it's going to cost them money, and they don't want to do it.
The thing I find frustrating with the AFL, I think the NRL are a few steps ahead of the AFL.
Yeah,
I genuinely think they are. They brought in dangerous tackle almost 10 years ago. They've stopped the head first tackle. They've stopped everything to do with the head. They've applied punishments for it, and they've got. I think they've got a pretty reasonable concussion protocol. You will miss X number of games. I see that extending, by the way. I only see that 12-day window that they call in the AFL now. I think there'll be a lot of pressure to make that a whole month. And whether the player reports it or not, that would have to be an independent commissioner, an independent body that would assess that, medical body. What I find frustrating with the AFL, and I called it out before, they keep chasing their own tail on head-high stuff.
Yeah.
How can you have a potential lawsuit on your hand worth millions, if not billions, amongst various ex-players, and yet have a process and a system that essentially exonerates a footballer, and accident or otherwise, exonerates a footballer with zero punishment for knocking him out cold? It's actually irrelevant how many times the player itself has been concussed. The fact of the matter is the player was concussed. Now, the AFL needs to work out and understand what does it actually stand for on this head-high contact. And so when you talk about compliance before, Aaron, every business assesses its risk appetite, okay? So every business has a risk appetite, financial risk, whatever the case. In this case here, what's the medical risk / end of legal financial risk attached to all this? I honestly think the AFL are still trying to work out how much they're probably going to need to pay out first before they then decide to take any action. So, in other words, let's keep concussing blokes. That's by the by. That's current rules. Let's keep being as inconsistent as possible at the tribunal with this stuff, because we're just waiting to see how much we need to pay out first. And if we feel like the payout's absorbed, we won't change anything. And that to me is the saddest part about this whole thing. If you're going to stand for something on head high, make your rules, make them concrete, accident or otherwise. You've got to pay a punishment. You've got to have a punishment. I played football. It wasn't kamikaze, but it was pretty full on. I was chest out first, and I had me 8 concussions. I was out cold 8 times. It is what it is, and there was multiple other times. But if I was able to play football now, and there were rules that were put in place about the head-high contact, I guarantee I would have had half. I would have been concussed half the time. I can absolutely guarantee you I would have been concussed half the time, and that would be even more so at the AFL level. So, for me, the duty of care that the AFL's got, I don't know about players having the duty of care. They know that. The AFL's got a duty of care for the very, very blokes that they're not looking after at the moment. And that's their players at the AFL level, VFL level, grassroots. And Gooch, you make an amazing point, and I'm glad you brought it up. Young blokes, young women as well, clearly. Anyone playing this code and anyone playing a sport contact code, there's going to have to be things that are more mandatory than others at the adult level. There just has to be. Because without it, kids are like, they emulate what they see on the TV. They're not saying that they're their role models. They just see what's on TV a lot. Yeah. They'll go and play that way. And I think that got to be able to somehow pull the kids back from themselves a bit. They don't know anything different. So, it's got to be on these codes, particularly the AFL, to really pull back and make a decision. Are you feeding them about hand-high contact or not? And if you're not, fine. Each individual participant can then make their decision if they want to participate in the code or not. And I can guarantee you there'll be more people that pull out than want to participate moving forward.
Do you think there's a reluctance or even an ignorance to sort of really engage and learn about concussion at an AFL level?
Yeah,
from what you sort of looked at and done in your experience.
Very good question, and I'll give you two real quick examples. And Alan, you speak eloquently about it. It's absolutely so imperative that we take care of. God gave us the ability to take care of our most precious asset, our children's brains. That's our response. We're the adults in the picture. We must do a better job of that. When it comes to the ignorance, Glenn, I can tell you just two quick examples. One, about 10 years ago when we first started Stop Concussions, I had Keith Primo, Wayne Primo, and Zenon Konopka at a hockey function that had well over 2,000 participants. We set up a huge Stop Concussion booth. We had all the pamphlets, we had pictures, we had videos, everything going on. We weren't selling it with blood and guts. We're just saying, hey, this is what can happen. This is what you need to know. You as a parent, you as a kid, you as a coach. And we had probably about 1,000 pamphlets made up. And how many pamphlets do you think on a 2-day weekend with over 2,000 players? So that would be like a half a parent. Let's say there were 3,000 people walk right along by our booth. How many pamphlets do you think we handed out?
23.
And what was really alarming was Keith Primo was a pretty big star there. We were having a little bit of a talk, and maybe 10 or 12 people were sitting around listening. And there was a young boy looking up at the TV, and it was just telling you about what the signs and symptoms were of concussion. And one of them, it was a mother that walked up to her son and said, "Come on, I want to watch this, Mom." No, this is of interest to you. And off she went. I can guarantee you, mother, when that son, God forsake, would get concussed, she'd be the first with her hand up saying, "Why didn't I know more?" And so I think, Glenn, the issue is this. If it doesn't happen to me, who cares at the end of the day? Those players decide to play.
And that's human nature, isn't it? If it doesn't happen to you, it's an issue. So speeding, whatever it might be in life, I'm in my little bubble over here. I'm okay, so I'll stay okay. Then when it happens, oh shit, why didn't someone tell me about this? Why wasn't I aware of it?
Well, no, yeah. I'll go even further than that. It's not so much, why didn't someone tell me? Who can I sue? Who can I get money out of?
Who can I blame? Yeah.
It's all care, no responsibility. It just literally is.
Whose fault is? Yeah.
There's one other example, and it'll be quick. What happened was it was here in Australia, and Sammy, myself, and I know Aaron has been in the background with Stop Concussions. I came here in 2011 with the idea of raising money and awareness with Stop Concussions. And I can tell you the debate's even bigger now than it was then on whose fault is this? And everybody's looking for somebody to blame. But the fact of the matter is they had lined me up. I lined up Dr. Alan Pierce for this event that was going on in Australia. And I just don't want to alienate or put anybody on the spot right now, but this actually happened. They called me and said, "Listen, we're going to give you an hour time slot when all these kids and parents are here." They were all in the age of 16 and under, and we're going to want you to make a concussion presentation, talk about all the things that needed to know. And what we were going to present was the common stuff, like change the mindset. Maybe start thinking about the cause, effect, consequent of the injury. When the injury happens, where do you go? I can ask you here, if you were concussed today in your area, would you know where to go? You go to a hospital. You wait 8 hours in the waiting room. You get to the doctor that's had 20 or 30 minutes of education on concussions, or he or she goes and Googles it. That's the issue. So this event, they called me up just before and said, "You know what? The powers to be have decided that they don't really want to bring it up under these circumstances. It's a tournament and we just don't want to, confuse people. And I'm thinking, what better time? You've got all these people around. We're not going to stop playing. We're going to say play, but play with understanding that there is risk to everything that you do. You could walk across the street and get hit by a car. What do? You look both ways and you see that a car is not coming, right? Basically. So with concussions, if you educate yourself enough to understand what the symptoms are, so your little son or daughter plays in this tournament, comes home and has flu-like symptoms and is unconcentrated and puking and the head spinning, headaches, you're thinking, oh, it's the flu. Let's take some Panadol. You'll be okay. But if they would ask the right questions, hey, well, you were playing today. Anything happened? Yeah, you know what? I got hit in the head. I didn't feel well. They put me back out there. That's what we're trying to do. We're not expecting to be the traffic cop. We're not expecting to be the doctor. It's your child's brain. Why wouldn't you want to educate yourself if you're going to allow them to play sport that not specifically has body checking, but has contact, incidental or organized? That's where we are, guys.
Yeah, look, I think you make a great point, Gooch, and we're here talking about generally on a sports show, but concussions can happen anywhere, right, Gooch? This isn't something that's related to the sports industry only, and I think that needs to be taken in place. And today, obviously, is a really important day in the mental health space with Are You OK Day, and this is such a true one. Ask, are you okay? No qualifications needed. This is such a simple message that's so honest, and we're lucky to have great movement into this space in relation to mental health, but nowhere near enough done. And if it's ever needed, it's needed so much more now after COVID and on the back of COVID. So we look forward to chatting about this space a hell of a lot more over the next year for sure. We're going to try and do our little bit.
If I could just end it with me, I'll let you guys go because I know I got a ton of stuff doing as the NHL comes to Melbourne. We're so excited. I just want to say that how I got heavily involved in concussions is not only a personal thing, but it's something that a lot of people need to know. The parents need to listen to this. Young kids are making pacts with their players saying, listen, I got concussed. I'm popping aspirins. I got to play in this game because there's scouts coming to watch. Please don't tell mom and dad and all that sort of stuff. We lost a kid. His name was Eric Pelly with that same concept. He was concussed the week before. His best friend knew it. Eric made a deal with his buddy not to talk about it, not to tell anybody. Eric popped aspirins the whole time, went out and played it was actually a rugby game in Pittsburgh, was hit hard, suffered his second concussion within a week, within months. He went through all the trials and tribulations. Nobody knew how many concussions he had suffered because we didn't have a data bank. He had concussions in soccer, hockey, and the third one is in rugby, but they weren't crossing over. Nobody knew how many he had. Unfortunately, he went and did all the scans. Everything was clear. 9 days after the incident, the doctor had said, listen, if you're starting to feel better, go out and start working out, walking a little bit. On the 9th morning, his mother, Joan Pelly, who's a very good friend of mine now, was making breakfast, was talking to Eric. Eric said, hey, I feel really good. I'm ready to start maybe working out. As the mother turned around to put the eggs on the plate, his head was on the ground and we had lost him to what's called second impact syndrome. Had that boy told Eric's parents he had been concussed, Eric would still be alive today. And so we're talking about lives. We're talking about not only the person that's affected by it, but everybody's affected by it. So we do have to stand up and say, enough's enough. It is time for all of us to take action. All of us. I want to watch sport. I love AFL. I love going to the MCG and seeing 90,000 people. The problem is that we can't be these gladiators anymore. We have to all work together to make the game safer. Yes, there's going to be incidental issues. We go in a car. Every time we get in a car, we can get in a car accident. Every time we play, we can get hurt. But if we mitigate the risk, it's certainly going to help us.
Yeah, great point. And Gooch, before you go, I just want to touch on the NHL game that's about to land in Australia. But interestingly enough, Eddie made a great point just in relation to the game of ice hockey, and that's obviously what's coming here. And we talk about why in the NHL they're still allowing helmets and gloves off and fight. Should they outlaw it? Punish the behavior. What's your thoughts on that? Obviously, you're so close to ice hockey around the world, but it seems to be still one of those sports that's still got the gladiator component.
Well, Eddie Oliver, I know I haven't seen you in a while. Love to get together, and we'll talk about this personally in the next couple of weeks. It'll be a lot of fun before I go home. It's simple. Ice hockey has realized there is an issue, and it's just been passed. Eddie, you probably didn't see it on the news, but it has been passed in the QMJHL. It's the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. It's one of our feeder systems to the NHL. These guys are tough. Like, we're talking to play in that league and come through it. And I played that's the eastern part. I played in the western part of that league called the Western Hockey League. In my days, man, you had to be tough, like really tough. Bench brawls, stick swinging incidences, people going up in the stands and fighting. It was absolute chaos. We brought it back down to somewhat of a controlled environment. And then we continued on allowing fighting, and we know there are a lot of fighters. You mentioned the movie Enforcer. If you really want to understand the issues in hockey, watch this movie called Enforcer. If you really want to grasp an understanding of concussions itself, go and watch the movie Concussions with Will Smith. It is absolutely phenomenal. It was about 10 years ago when the book came out. It's phenomenal. You'll get a real good understanding about, it's called exposure. It's the amount of times you're on a situation where you can have contact. So if you play 100 games or you play 20 games, your exposure is obviously more when you play 100. In the NHL, sorry, I'll just finish the point. In the NHL, they have not made the rule yet, but in the Quebec Junior Hockey League, they have now put in this year ice hockey fighting is banned. You can no longer drop your gloves and have a fight. So that's the start. It is the start because this is the league that feeds a lot of the players in the National Hockey League. There are people, as you know, in your sport, are kind of, hey, let's push the envelope as far as you can because I'll be out of the sport and it won't be my problem, but I'll still be able to enjoy the sport I like. And that's happening in our managements throughout the world. They're just waiting and buying time because they don't want to be the one that has to deal with. Alan, you mentioned lawsuits. There are going to be lots of lawsuits coming down the pipeline if we don't get a handle on it. So I think it started, Eddie, great question. It started in Canada in that league, and I think you'll see it spread really quickly throughout all the leagues in North America. And eventually that feeder system will then obviously eliminate fighting in the National Hockey League.
I hope you're right, Gooch, because I recall when that movie was released in 2013, sporting organisations actually wanted it banned at the time.
NFL protest to get it done. Yep.
I am not surprised that that's the case. And I know that's the Quebec Junior League, mate, and that's fantastic. But I hate to say it, we're talking about America here. If they can't pass gun laws to stop shooting their own kids, I actually think you're going to have a really slow burn on this particular issue in general sports in America when they want to ban a bloody movie from 10 years ago. I hope that they do progress it through the American sporting system, banning all sorts of fighting and combat. That's kind of that's a layup, right? So, but in America, I really hope that they see it for what it is and follow Canada's lead.
Have all of you seen the movie Concussions?
Yes.
Yeah. So the best line in the movie is when the lawyer is talking with Dr. Mula, the gentleman that I think is a Nigerian doctor who is challenging the NFL on that. We're obviously damaging our brains at alarming rates. We need to do something about it. And there's something called CTE, and he's the one that starts challenging everybody on it. And of course, Will Smith is in there. And I got to meet Dr. Mula, and that's who played him. Will Smith did a great job on it. And the comment came from the lawyer: are you prepared to challenge the institution that owns Sunday? And when you think about that, we all think the institution that owns Sunday is the church. And that's what he thought he was meaning. And the lawyer said, no, you're going to challenge the National Football League. They own Sunday in the United States. It's $1 billion day. Billions are made throughout the NFL on that day. And what this doctor was doing to the institution was putting maybe a stop to it, get rid of the shine. So that's why they tried to bury it, because they didn't want their sponsors seeing that the National Football League was actually throwing these players like what would happen if today we took those players and got them to play against a bunch of lions and let them run around. And if they didn't make it, they got eaten by the lion. We're doing that. It's the exact same thing. It's just we accept the fact that we don't see the blood and guts on it. So I think it's guys, it's a controversial space. It's great that you bring it up. I know that I hope it's solved before I leave the planet. I hope for your children, your grandchildren, we do get a handle on it, because we have to look at the other side of sport. Sport brought us so much. My skates are my passport to the world. I've been able to travel everywhere because I played this great game called ice hockey. And I think there are the intangibles that come from the sport, all sport, teammanship, learning how to play and work with other people under adversity, the joy, the sorrows. In ice hockey, you fall down, you have to get up to continue on playing. There are so many great things that happen in sport. We have to focus on that. And while we're focusing on that, try and solve this white elephant in the room.
Yeah, well said, Gooch. All right, I just before you go, I just want to touch on the fact that many years ago now, Gooch, it's been many years since we were lucky enough to meet and bring the Ice Hockey Classic, Canada and USA ice hockey teams to Australia multiple times, pretty much setting up and paving the way realistically for the NHL to hopefully one day come to the country. And we're blessed and lucky enough to be able to put the NHL now in the same arena that's we're blessed to have here, the Rod Laver Arena for the Australian Open every year. Just tell us a little bit about what we come to expect. You came here obviously to coach Melbourne Ice recently, but you've also laying some really good foundations to continue to grow the game. Tell us what we can expect now. You were lucky enough to bring the great Wayne Gretzky here. No one's been able to do that. So, Gooch, thank you so much for being able to do that. I was able, and so was Sam, to somehow be on this ride. It's been fantastic. So, please enjoy this series that's coming up, mate. On behalf of all of us and Australia, to say thank you for everything you put in place. I know you're a humble man and probably don't take a lot of credit for really what happened here, but they wouldn't have come here, Gooch, if you hadn't have done what you've done. So tell us a little bit about this game that's coming up and what really should these fans expect from the two teams coming.
Geez, you're making me cry. Thank you for that very nice compliment. When I look back, and I know that Sam and I talked about this before, I can look back with so much pride, and I am humble, but yet this is a situation where the NHL is here. We did pave the way to some degree. I remember being in the offices of TLA in New York with the first meeting over this whole NHL. This was back about 8 years ago, probably just before we had Gretzky come out here and play. And I was sitting in a room with all the executives from TLA and the NHL, and they were all talking. And I was looking outside the window, and where the office was, if you guys watched the New York New Year's Eve bash, where they count down the ball drops, the ball was right there. And so I remember that specifically. And they were talking about, bringing the NHL. And I heard at that time, a couple of comments were, it's a lot of money. How are we going to support it? Obviously, it's a small market. And I always believed, through learning through our Ice Hockey Classic, which Sammy and Aaron, I won't go into the details with the jerseys, but just having you on board, Aaron, and solving a jersey, it would have been Jersey Gate. It has been an unbelievable ride. And I've heard comments like, oh my God, it's only Arizona. Oh my God, why didn't they have Crosby here or Connor McDavid? It's always those naysayers, always the negative part. Guys, Gretzky has traveled to 5 countries, 5 in his life, to represent hockey. And you know where one of them was? Sydney, Australia. The NHL has gone to 8 different countries around the world. And now they're coming to Australia. Let's not think about the negative part. Who cares what teams are here? They have brought a absolutely incredible show. I'm actually going to the airport in an hour to pick up the crew that's going to be building the ice, who happen to be our ice, Martin Arts. I'm picking him up. They're so optimistic of putting this rink in Rod Laver Arena, which I think, Aaron, you were at a couple of them, which were sold out. I can remember a picture of me drinking a coffee at the center ice where center court was. And when I look back with all the things that we've done together, guys, obviously excluding Glenn and Alan because you weren't there at that time, but you will be one day with us. We have to look with pride and honor that we were the ones that maybe paved the way. But let's not look in the past, let's look in the future. You are going to see two incredible hockey teams. They're saying it's only LA and Arizona Coyotes. These are two very talented teams, and the NHL has not made the mistake the NBA did or MLB. They are bringing the stars. Anze Kopitar is going to be here. Drew Doughty is here. We've got Keller on the Arizona Coyotes. You've got some of the big brass coming. Bill Armstrong, who's the general manager of the Arizona Coyotes. There are so many great people coming that it is going to be a one-of-a-kind event. It's sold out on Saturday. On Sunday, there's a bit of tickets left. On Thursday night, before it all gets started, they're having the Fire and Ice, which supports the Ice Hockey Australia. It's a great night where you're going to be able to mingle with some of the greats. Anson Carter, a lot of you people would know the name, played in the National Hockey League for over 10 years, a great career in LA. Paul McLean, an unbelievable icon in our game, is coming. And you'll be able to actually be up close and personal. So everybody that has an opportunity, even if you don't know the sport, when you come and watch ice hockey played, it's a sport very similar to your AFL. It's action-packed. It's dynamite. Everybody is moving. There's an incredible atmosphere in the room. People are passionate. The blood, the sweat, the tears is shown on every play. When you come and watch an ice hockey game live, there's nothing like it. And man, to be there on Saturday and Sunday and watch these arguably the best players in the world will be here playing in your country, we got to support it. So I'm looking forward to an unbelievable week. It starts tonight, and then I'm going to be on the road the whole time, tap dancing and selling our great sport of ice hockey. So Aaron, thank you for allowing me to talk about that. Thank you for the compliment of paving the way a bit. And having Wayne Gretzky here, when I look back, I just saw a video of the gala. There was nothing. There he is. That is the greatest of all time. Hey, I'm going to ask you guys a question. All of you, I'd love to hear your answer. Wayne Gretzky, there's always a debate. You guys know that from era to era. Is Connor McDavid going to be better than Gretzky? Is Crosby already elapsed Gretzky? I know I've watched all of the greats. I had an opportunity to see Maurice Richard play, who was one of the greatest. Bobby Orr, another incredible name. Wayne Gretzky was the full package. He was everything. He was arguably the greatest that's ever played, but he was more than that. He was unbelievable off the ice. There were no scandals around him. Everything was clean, very similar to Crosby. So my question to you guys, who would be the same iconic figure in the AFL? Somebody that maybe was a great player but had really bad stuff go on off the field. We know a lot of those guys, but Gretzky was that consummate professional in everything he did. Go around the table. Who's going to start first?
Lovey, kick us off.
Said Lee Matthews, except in his career he actually had charges laid against him after a game. So it's actually a really good question. I think from a clean skin point of view.
I don't necessarily have to be a clean skin. I mean, Lee Matthews, as you said, is probably known as our biggest name to have played the game. Gooch?
No, but Gooch asked, who was a generational player that also doesn't have any shit hanging off his profile?
Okay.
And I struggle to think of one in the AFL, to be brutally honest. I really do. Probably a Simon Madden, but he's not as famous as your Lee Matthews or your Wayne Carey or something like that. It's actually a really good question. I'm not sure I can think of someone who's as generational as Wayne Gretzky in the AFL area. I mean, I was going to say until you find me until you can find me a player who we're still talking about 4 decades later, like we have Jordan, for instance, as well.
Yeah.
Jordan, Gretzky, those guys. I don't think we've got anyone in the AFL.
All right,
like
round
that.
the tables. Anyone got one?
I got one for you.
Kevin Murray from Fitzroy, Brownlow medalist.
Yeah, righto.
Is he,
Yeah,
mate?
righto. I've
Robert
got
Harvey.
one. Triple Brownlow medalist, Bobby Skilton.
Bobby Skilton, yeah.
There you go. There's one. And to win 3 best on in the league during those kind of periods is still iconic today. It's not a household name and such, but Traps, who have you got for us?
Robert Harvey.
Yeah, there's another.
Yeah,
Once again, it's really, really hard to
not generational.
come up with that. But interesting enough, Gooch, we know very little in respect of the game of hockey or ice hockey as we know it in general, but there's not too many people that haven't heard of the name Wayne Gretzky, right? So to have had that reach over so long and so long ago when he played, it just shows you how truly iconic Gretz is. And honestly, Gooch, could you even think of who would be a second? You've brought Gretz here now, so that's one done. Who would you bring next? Who would be your one player that you could bring?
Yeah. Sidney Crosby would be the next that would be probably the most recognizable name. But you guys just like you mentioned Jordan, Tiger Woods. Think about those names. There are only a handful of guys that you could actually think are worldwide known. You would find Gretzky would be known in Africa, for example, because there's actually an ice hockey league there. All around the world, Gretzky and Jordans and Tiger Woods would be named. But I think I want to leave you with this, what I think is unbelievable. When you think of the players you just mentioned, how many trophies they've won and all that sort of stuff, Gretzky holds 10 records in the National Hockey League. He holds more than that, but these are the 10 records that probably will never be beaten. Most are trophies. It's the highest player to score every year. He was most goals in a season, 92. It will never be matched, even with Ovechkin. Most assists in one season, 163. These are numbers that are just ridiculous. Most professional goals in a career, 1,072. He has outscored every player by tenfold. Most Hart trophies, that's the best player in the league. He's got a record 9 of them. He's got the most career points, 2,857. Not another player is close by 1,000 points. 3 consecutive 200-point seasons. There has not been a player even close to 150 points in a season in the last 10 years. 51 game point streak. So he scored a point in 51 games, which is unheard of. And the last one is he scored 50 goals in 39 games. Will never be beaten. So I think that when you think about iconic figures that are known around the world, but hold all of these trophies within, it's pretty tough not to say he's the greatest of all times.
Yep, absolutely. And I just want to leave you with this one image that to me symbolizes everything that we've been trying to do in hockey and sport, Gooch. And to me, this one's it. The next generation of the game, and what a moment for that whole family. This kid will never realize how special that moment was, but it's kind of like it's absolute the best day you could ever come across. That we're growing this future generations of sport. Gooch, you've laid the foundations here for hockey, not only just hockey, mate, but you're the one that continuing this concussion debate and discussion, and hopefully all sport and in general benefits from this. So I really look forward to these chats. We're going to release this. It may not look exactly like this, but a thing called Concussed, basically understanding the invisible injury, and that's something we're going to release shortly, and we're going to get as many people involved as we can from all sorts of discussions, right down to local sport concussions. Lovey, you touch on the fact you've had so many concussions. There's so much of that story still to tell as far as, what that does in the rest of your life as you go on. So there's so many of those silent discussions that we need to have a lot more of. So we look forward to doing that. Gooch, you've been awesome, mate. We only plan to have a short show, but once again, show number 101, we're going to dedicate to you, Gooch. Topically, the Pies And the pie discussion was a great one. It was great to have it with you. Thanks for coming on, and we'll see you again so pretty soon, Gooch.
Love you guys. Love you, lover. Glenn,
Very good.
Aaron.
See you, Cobber.
All right, boys. We're gonna talk a little bit of footy for 5 or 10 minutes and just talk about our great game that we love and a couple of key points. But just before we talk footy, I just want to, Lovey, I just want you to tell us a little bit about what happened yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yeah, a couple of days ago with the New York Jets. What a disaster.
Oh, my God. So, all the hoopla.
Talk it to him
All the hoopla. So,
just go
thanks for interrupting, Cuz.
in chronological order, mate. So I just go from 1 to 5 in order of how shit the process was.
Well, no, I won't need to do that. It's going to be a very simple thing. It's going to be a very simple thing to talk about. It's one of the biggest wastes of money of all time I've ever seen in sports. So Aaron Rodgers signs on with the New York Jets, left the Green Bay Packers after 14 seasons. $70 million individually for the year, and I think it was a 5-year deal. Aaron, I can't remember, 4-year deal, $70 million this year. So they bring out the whole college-looking football thing, and he comes bolting out with the American flag, which is fantastic because it was 9/11. It was very symbolic. But the whole contract saga about will he sign on with the Jets, won't he? The amount of fight that the Jets actually put on to try and get him was credit to them. Then you get to the game and kick off and all the rest of it, and he's got first chance with the football. 1 minute in to his $70 million contract, he's no longer playing for the New York Jets in the 2023-24 season. So he'll take his $70 million, and he'll play next year. He says he's going to play for the Jets next year. He owes them one. Absolutely, you do. I've never ever. I tried to break it down. So $70 million across 1 minute of work. That's over $1 million per minute. Don't even ask me to break it down per second.
Yeah.
And the worst part was it wasn't even a completed pass. It was incomplete. So, didn't even make a play. And I have to – we can debate this another time. If you can find me a bigger waste of money in sport, and waste I mean as in this stiff, and it's just – it is what it is. But it's $70 million in the cap they can't get back. So they've now looks like they're going to sign on Colin Kaepernick. Hasn't played for 7 years, 8 years.
Yeah.
Very, very controversial figure. He might get 70,000 maybe in comparison. So, just ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. I was watching it and I couldn't believe it. And then you jump on the social media. That's the funniest bit. You jump on socials, these poor Jets fans, they haven't won a single thing for so many years. Yeah. And their Messiah comes in and he's already on the cross within 1 minute of the football season. It's just done, gone, see you later time. They've already consigned themselves to another year of misery.
Yeah, absolute disaster, wasn't it? Like, it just happens to be I was on a podcast I just finished and I rang Gooch and we're having a quick chat about the game. And he said, have you seen the Jets game? And I said, no, what happened? And he said, and I just happened to flick it on ESPN. It was on. It was the last couple of minutes. So we're going to bring Gooch on for a quick chat again just to talk about, has there been anything else like this that he knows of in the sport of hockey? What a disaster. Money-wise, I get it. But also for the fans, all their hopes are gone. And you're going to hope that he comes back next year. But Gooch, has there been anything like this, Gooch, in hockey that you remember?
You guys just can't seem to get away from me. I love it. I'm like a wart on the bottom of the foot. It just won't go away. Listen, there is one, and I know there's controversy with Aaron Rodgers. I actually like the dude. He's cocky, and he puts up numbers. He talks a lot, but he delivers. So I'll give him that. But you're right. When he came running out with that flag, he should have. The only thing he could have done better is if he was on a horse with a gun and shooting. That would have been. I'll tell you what. There was a time in history in the National Hockey League, and it comes full circle to what we were talking about on concussions. We always hear the names like We talked about Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux, which is also another incredible player. Is he the best of all times? But there was a player who was inducted in the Hockey Hall of Fame that I got to meet a couple of times. His name was Eric Lindros, played for the Philadelphia Flyers, had a stint with Keith Primo, my co-founder of Stop Concussions. In 1998, 99, he had just signed a big deal again with the Philadelphia Flyers, and he was going to break a bunch of records. And there was a player, his name was Scott Stevens, and Scott Stevens was known to be that guy that just loved to hover in the middle ice zone. He was a defenseman. Eric Lindros was a centerman, and he was known to crush people. He probably put 12 people out of the game with concussions. So he's one of those bash and crash guys. And he actually had to retire, Scott Stevens himself, from concussions. He not only delivered, he took a bunch on his own. And Eric Lindros was coming through the middle. Eric was I think he was 6'4". Yeah, 6'4", 240 pounds, just like a linebacker in football, coming across the middle. He had his head down, full speed. Scott Stevens saw it and just crushed him and put him out. And he was never the same player. And it was concussions that put him out. And his brother was also the same size, 6'4", signed a huge multi-deal contract for the New York Islanders and only lasted 5 games. It was millions and millions of dollars that they signed him for. So very similar right off the bat. He took a concussion in his 5th game in the National Hockey League, was knocked out and never played again. So the Lindros name really is synonymous with what just went on with Aaron Rodgers. Lots of money spent and only a few games played. You feel sorry for the athlete. At the end of the day, whether you like them or you don't, if you don't like Aaron Rodgers or you do, God, the family, it's not about the money. I know we always talk about it, but he's 39, tearing his Achilles tendon. Man, if anybody could do it, it could be him to come back, but that's a really, really, really tough injury to come back and play. So we wish him all the best. Hopefully he gets through without too much pain. I had my Achilles tendon stretched a couple of times. It's not an injury you want to have, especially when you tear it.
Absolutely. All right, Gooch, thanks for joining us. You're never out. See you soon.
I'm frozen.
There he is, the great Gooch. He's fantastic to have. What an asset to have as a great friend of mine, and having him back on the show to talk concussions. Because, boys, that's a really exciting conversation. Not an exciting conversation in respect, but a really exciting time to have this conversation. And we're going to be kind of part pioneers in keeping even down a local sport, hopefully making a difference in this space. So, Lovey, I know you want to touch on Are You OK Day. What an important moment it is, just in not only sport, obviously, nothing to do with sport. This is really to do with life. I touched on it before, but we really need to get this Are You OK ambassador up and going, or on, or someone to talk to, because Are You OK is probably one of those ones that's probably early in the space in relation to mental health. But there's so many more that we want to reach out to as well. But just tell us a little bit about your thoughts on today.
I think the sooner we do, the better, because it's coming up to that time of year where the mental health of a lot of people gets stretched a bit because of finances, family issues, etc., around Christmas time and the rest of it. So I think the sooner we can try and find someone from the Are You OK movement to jump on the show, the better. But yeah, it was interesting. I was at work today, and it's to me, it's a very simplistic kind of concept. It's literally just a case of, it could be someone you know, it could be someone you haven't spoken to in a month, 2 years, whatever. Just literally picking up the phone, or not sending an email, but just either talking, either verbally or actually one-on-one, face-to-face, and just because that's when you can see if someone's not quite right. You can either hear their tone or you can see it in their face and the rest of it. So for me, Are You OK Day is literally just the easiest check-in you can do that can actually help someone's day get better, or more extreme. Just cut that momentary thought about doing something very, very sad and drastic. So it's happened. A lot of people have said literally phone calls have saved their lives, and or people literally knocking on a door 2 minutes before they've chosen to go and do something really drastic, and they've never thought of it after that. So I find the whole mental health in general is an issue for us. Is something we're still so far behind on. It's not funny.
Yeah.
But this is just a really simple step to help that along the way. You don't have to be a doctor to do it. You don't have to go to medical seminars and things like that to understand it. It's you helping someone else out next to you. It's you thinking about everyone but yourself, I guess. And if you can do that for a few minutes in the day or half a day or whatever, then you should do it. And this shouldn't become a slogan thing. It just should be a habit. That's the other thing I'll say. This can become a habit for you to do as a good person, is just get in contact with different people that you know and just tap in.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair to Gooch, that's exactly kind of what started with him during COVID. And he's pretty much from day one, he's one of those people that needs, wants to reach out and always has reached out to people, started his own podcast, had this discussion. In the end, it inspired me to do this one. So, I mean, it's been a great outlet, really, for all of us to talk in general. But Are You OK Day, specifically this year, there's a couple of key messages there. Ask, are you okay? Listen, most importantly, encourage action, and check in. So hopefully we can get someone on. I know it's going to be past Are You OK Day, but you're right, Lovey. We need to talk about this every day and not just once. Absolutely. So, Cuz, you got any quick thoughts before we move on to?
No, really well spoken, Lovey. It's a very important day, and as you said, it's an easy thing to do, just check in on someone. I think that's half the reason, as you said, as why we started the podcast. So it's important that we do it on a daily basis, not just on an Are You OK Day. Something got to be on top of all the time.
Yep, well spoken. All right. The big question, boys. There's two teams that potentially could just go out in straight sets now that we're in the top four. Concerning if you're a Melbourne supporter, and concerning if you're a Port Power supporter. Realistically, boys, I know it can happen, but what are the chances? Sadly, Sam's not with us, who would punch the argument for the Blues, and that's why he originally was going to jump on. But
thank fuck he's not on then.
Correct. We've heard enough from Carlton supporters over the last weeks. I really hope the Demons can silence Carlton quickly.
Are you nervous, Dave?
Yeah, I'm incredibly nervous, to be honest. And it's nice that this podcast has kind of come up, because I'm not thinking about it at all till right now. But look, I hope there's a lot of issues up forward. That's the biggest issue for me, forward to centre. I think we can get them defensively. Like everything, they're there to be beaten. The question is who's going to do it? Carlton are on momentum, pure momentum at the moment. I think they can keep going. But what's your thoughts, Cuz, on Carlton right now?
Oh, look, Carlton have got the momentum, but I think you're a better side, though, mate. I know you've got your forward issues, but
Better
I just think
sides don't necessarily get the job done, though.
No,
So
you're right.
What have Melbourne done differently? What are they going to do, and what can they tweak to make sure this doesn't happen again? What happened on the last week?
Well, I think a lot of you touched on. I think Harm's got a plan out, hasn't he?
Well, he's not selected, so not even selected as an emergency. So that's disappointing for me, because I'm a big Harms man. But realistically, he's probably not in our best 22. The question is he coming in as a stopper, or what's he coming in to do? That's the question.
Harms?
Yeah.
Not even 100% fit. So.
Correct. So I think it's too much to ask at this point. Lovey, what's your thoughts? I know, there's a couple of new boys come in, but I really think they're just patching some old wounds, realistically.
So I look at your ins and outs. So for Melbourne, it's Tomlinson, Spargo and Jordan. In for Brayshaw, Laurie, Van Ruin and Hibbard. The Hibbard one's the interesting one for me.
Yeah, it's a big out for me. Big out.
Is he injured?
No, he's an emergency. No.
He was actually omitted. I'm assuming they feel like they don't need him because Jack Martin got suspended. So it's kind of a small for small Carlton's forward half, Melbourne's back half. So I think Melbourne have clearly got matchups that they specifically want across the ground, if that's the case.
Yep.
The issue for me I've got with Melbourne, I agree with you, mate, and I'm not – I get the sense that maybe Tomlinson might be swung forward.
Yeah,
because
that'll be a really interesting move.
Van Ruin's out, right? Now, they haven't brought Grundy in.
Yep.
So they're not going to play with those 4 12s like they did last week, which I think is a good thing. I think having Spargo and Jordan coming in, they can rotate forward at the same as well, particularly Spargo, right? So I think your ins and outs are good. Like I said, Tomlinson's a bit of a swingman by the looks of it, and I think he might even go in the ruck while Gawn plays forward. So there's a bit of intrigue on that one. I'm not surprised with the Silvani one. He hasn't played since round 17 for Carlton. But I like Melbourne's chances a lot in this because Carlton have lost a third of their first 6 forward half players. Mackay, and look, I know Mackay's maligned, but he's done a lot of very, very good defensive acts, particularly last week.
Yep.
Jack Martin takes away a lot of pace in that around that forward half of Carlton as well. And they're goal kickers. When they're on, they're actually goal kickers. So a lot falls on Charlie now. And the problem I have for Carlton now with Harry Mackay out is Jake Lever could have the absolute game of his life here. You plonk Stevie May on Kerno all night, and Jake Lever goes to work all the whole way through. And for me, that's where you can absorb some either 50-50 or if you don't win as much midfield ball as you'd like, Jake Lever's just going to set himself up the whole night, and then you guys can just go to town from there, I think. That's where I think the Harry Mackay omission really hurts Carlton. So for me, I've got Melbourne winning by 3 goals. It's going to be a pretty close game right through.
Yep.
But I don't think Melbourne are going to go straight sets 2 years in a row. There's no way. I don't think they'll allow it. So for me, I think track will go berserk. And I've got you winning by 3 goals.
Yeah, okay. Well, hopefully Kennedy comes in Matthew Kennedy comes in from last game was round 17, so not that long ago, but definitely underdone for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how the Blues go.
He's a good foot soldier. That's all right.
Yeah,
he might go to Oliver.
Yeah. Look, definitely Oliver was off his game. I think, to be honest, I just sensed that Oliver was very rattled regarding the Brayshaw incident. And he kind of commented a little bit on that. So, one sec. It'll be interesting to see how that kind of rolls out as the week goes. Obviously, it's the first game. The really interesting part is we've got Carlton obviously versus Melbourne right there at the G, 90,000 plus again directly over the road. The Melbourne Storm versus Sydney Roosters at 30-odd thousand. Played on the same night. Absolutely ludicrous. When the NRL could have had really clean air, I think, on the Saturday. But anyway, it'll be what it'll be. I know it's all up against each other. So that's disappointing for me because I got to get to a point where I've got 2 screens going and push my alliance either way. But Cuz, what's your thoughts, Demons and Blues?
Oh, look, I'm with Lovey. I don't think Melbourne will go straight sets 2 years in a row. I think they're better than that. And I think they'll win by 3 or 4 goals on Friday night.
Who kicks them, mate? Who kicks the goals? That's the question.
Look, I'm with Lovey. I think Tomlinson could be a swingman, could go forward and into the ruck.
Yeah, look, his list. Well, you never believe where they line up, where they put him in the list, but he's lined up at fullback. So let's see. Obviously, Grundy's still down as an emergency. Anything can happen in relation to when you talk swing. There could be swing changes too. So who knows what's going to happen? How they're really going to line up because they pull. To be fair, Melbourne could pull one out of the bottom of the packet in respect of a surprise. So who knows? Weather's supposed to be good. Supposed to be perfect night. Let's see. I think it's Tom
McDonald's last crack at it too. So don't be surprised if he's having if he's going to have a real fair dinkum. game tomorrow night. So he could come out with 4 or 5 of his own. So
Yeah.
very capable.
Interesting enough, Melbourne and Carlton are both very good defensive teams, no question. So this could be a low score. The question is, scoring's great to keep holding someone to a score, but if Carlton get away and get off the chain, my concern is that can Melbourne drag them back and kick those 5 or 6 goals? And the question is, who's it going to come from? That's the concern for me. There's a lot relying on Pickett and Petrarca. But let's see. Spargo could be the dark horse.
Which team absorbs that pressure in that last quarter better? It's going to be Melbourne.
I think so, yeah.
Well.
Yep.
So that's the crux of it, right? Carlton have been brave, as shit of a club as they are. They've been brave. And I think that being brave is great. All Sydney did wrong last week was not kick straight. They absorbed the pressure. They applied pressure, and Carlton wilted.
Yep.
Carlton crumbled after half time. They really did. The problem was that Sydney didn't capitalise on that. And I think Melbourne need to make sure they don't do the same thing they did last week. They made Collingwood panic. They're the best team in the comp. They made Collingwood panic. So I think Melbourne win this because they know how to manage finals pressure better, and they've just got a better structure right now for me.
Yep. All right, let's move on to Saturday's game. Port Adelaide versus the Giants over in Adelaide, obviously. Charlie Dixon in for Port. Dylan Williams omitted. Jeremy Finlayson omitted. We've got GWS. Stephen Caniglia comes in after clearing up that eye complainer issue that he had. Nick Haynes is a sub. Interesting they named the sub straight up. And Xavier O'Halloran omitted with Daniel Lloyd playing his 100th game. Boys, what's your thoughts? Will Port Power go out in straight sets? That's the big question.
I think GWS win this by 4 or 5 goals.
Yep, okay. Yeah, Bear, do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that? Where's it coming from? It's a big statement. Big statement.
Probably the best in-form midfield at the moment.
Yep.
The vibe.
Yep.
So, the vibe. It's just the vibe.
It's the
Now,
vibe.
I think they were smoky to win the whole thing.
Wow, that's a bigger call.
They win the whole thing, mate.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. This will be good.
Oh.
This will be good.
No. You made the comment. So if they win the whole thing,
yeah,
I will pay for you to have a GWS logo on the top of your foot, tattooed.
Toby Green tattoo, I think. I can see it coming.
Stump up, mate. Stump up. You're going to make grandiose statements like that.
Oh, I think they're a good side.
It's a big call, the whole thing. I mean, obviously, who does GWS play next? Is it Collingwood?
Collingwood.
Yeah, massive guns. Obviously, hopefully, if Melbourne get through the path, then is obviously they're going to get through the Lions in Brisbane with another massive challenge. But anyway, one hurdle at a time. Let's get over the Blues first. But the question is,
they've won at 10 grounds in the AFL, GWS. Travelling is no fear for them. Holds no fear.
It's actually 11 grounds.
11, isn't it?
It's 11. Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah.
Good on them.
Yeah, so you're right, Cuz. If anyone's in a position to actually do that, it's going to be GWS. They travel well. There's belief in Adelaide. The question is, I'm sure they've won at that Adelaide ground, right? That's the question.
Yeah.
So there's belief there. Let's see. Toby Green's got these boys up, primed. Caniglia has a big in. I think the biggest in was the ex-Demon boy that's up there. Bedford. I think he's been unbelievable, to be perfectly honest.
Did you let go of the wrong small forward?
Yeah, God, I'd absolutely pay tickets, unbelievable sheets to get him back right now.
Who'd you move on for him?
Yeah, well, it's interesting
Spargo?
Because probably Spargo, and interesting enough, Spargo could have the last laugh coming in this week, and hopefully can do something similar. But God, will we need it? So the question is, if it's not GWS, what's your thoughts, Lovey, and Port, and where do they get it done? They were pretty average last week. Brisbane were great, though, don't get me wrong.
Look, I think Port were the one team last week that were on a hiding of nothing, to be honest. And I called it at the start on this podcast a month ago that anywhere outside the MCG, Brisbane are the premiership team, and I still hold true to that. I think they're just an amazing football club right now. Support, they took a hit, they got nowhere near it. They move on. They've bagged themselves up. They're ready for a home game in Adelaide, and I do think they're made of sterner stuff than what some people are suggesting. Even young blokes have got a bit of pride about themselves, and that young midfield let themselves down a bit last week. And I kind of said that when you haven't got Wines and Boak in there sharing the load in a final, you get fanned out a bit, and I think that'll change this week. I think you'll find Wines will spend quite a bit of time in the middle this weekend, and Boak being a sub, please. He's got to play the full game. So I'm hoping they do that. Charlie Dixon, for me, becomes huge for Port, and that's mainly a ruck thing rather than a forward thing. It's been pretty obvious that Port, Lycett's a battler. He's great, but his best footy's behind him now, and I honestly think Charlie will straighten him up. The only thing for Charlie, he's got to make sure he stays fit for the whole game. Doesn't fall apart again. He's a bit like Tom McDonald. He could turn around and kick 5 for him on the weekend and win the game for him. I do think he's the more trustworthy footballer as well once he's out there, as opposed to Finlayson. Finlayson comes across as a bit of a sooky year 12 student or a year 11 student. If it's not going right, then I want to throw the toys out of the cot. So I do think Port hit back, and I do think their midfield. Look, GWS are good defensively, but they're not overtly physical. And Brisbane did put Adelaide over last week physically in the middle. Those hardened bodies of Brisbane in the midfield are just ridiculous. Neil, Dunkley, McCluggage. You won't get 3 harder midfield bodies that can also run. So they would have learnt from that. I think they win. I think they win pretty comfortably on the Adelaide Oval by about 6 goals. I think it's been a good run from GWS, but where did GWS's goals come from? That's my thing. I think the weak part for Port Adelaide's team is their back half, but the thing with GWS's forward half is they're reliant on Hogan a lot from a target perspective. So, I honestly think it's a bit of a nil or draw in that area of the ground. So it's midfield. Port win by 6 goals.
Yep. Okay. How much by? Did you say GWS by how much, Cuz?
I reckon 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah. Okay. Righto. I'm going to play.
You, mate?
I reckon Port are going to get it done. I just think there's no way they want to go straight sets either, and they're just going to. GWS on a good run. Don't get me wrong, but I think Dixon's a big in, and I think he's no doubt whether he gets the goals or we all know what he can be like. He can be like a Tex Walker and really rip the game apart. But the question is, that big body, someone's got to play on him. That's another free guy somewhere else. Ball's going to come to ground. Dixon just needs to be out there being a big basher, crashing packs, getting the ball to ground. And I think naturally he'll kick a couple himself. So I think it's going to be enough to get them over the line. The question is after that, where do they go from there? So we'll talk about that next week, hopefully. But Sammy, you missed your chance, mate, to talk up the Blues. So Adelaide internet isn't great. So I'm sure you're at the back pedaling just to get the lights back on. But thanks for joining us on the show tonight. Gooch, you've been amazing, and look forward to having you on again. Boys, but we just can't finish the show without this conversation. Lukey Costa, when is Glenn shaving that crap off his face? Harsh critic, Lukey Costa, but he did say, like me, he thought it was terrible initially, but he actually loves it now. So he's joined my party in respect of how long and how low can you go and how red and how grey can it be, cuz that's what we're looking forward to in the next few weeks. Nice. So that's about the only reason I want the house to drag on the sale a little bit more, because you said you're not shaving it off till the sale's done. But we look forward to that big, thick.
I might keep it. I like it. I might keep it. I do like it.
I actually think the longer it gets, the probably more it suits you. And I look forward to the dirty handlebar moustaches as well. But I'm a little bit worried about the big, hairy under chin that really should be just trimmed back a little bit, mate. I'm sure Lovey's not.
Trim back a little bit in the weekend, maybe.
He's going to look like a Brunswick Street Fitzroy renter in about 2 weeks' time. It's just horrific. Absolutely horrific. Just shave it, mate. You just stop. Please stop. It's like that Michael Jordan. It's like that Michael Jordan drugs ad years ago. Just stop.
By the way, Cuz, we do have to ask, are you okay, mate?
No, I am okay. Thank you for asking.
Great to hear. And if anyone's got any time, make sure you get out and have a look at this global series of NHL. We're pretty blessed to have this in all places of Australia in our hometown in Melbourne. So, by the way, go Melbourne Storm. Boys, I'm sure you're both on the Storm. Lovey, you need to be because your St. Georgia just didn't fire a shot. But if not, let's just touch on that quickly. Do you think are the Storm going to go in straight sets? There's another question for you. And the Roosters obviously have got an opportunity down here, but are the Storm going to be too good?
They want to go
If the
better
Storm if the Storm can't get over a depleted Roosters this week, then they just don't deserve to be in it. That's it.
Yeah, I know
They'll win.
I know the big cheese is giving a bit of lip to Munster during the week, so he thinks they're a big chance. Who knows?
Can Pappenhausen take a trip? No.
Wasn't it just the most talk about shattering episodes? Obviously, nothing to do with cash on that one, but thank God for him. Thank God. The good news is that break wasn't as bad as they kind of first thought. It wasn't compound, and it looks like it's just tendon and tibula, I think it is, which will mean he's kind of in a good position, and hopefully about 12 weeks and he's back up and running. Yeah, back for pre-season. So a monster 2024 for him. So get back on the Storm. My daughter and her boyfriend's lucky enough to be able to get there for the game. I've given up my tickets because I'm too nervous to I've got to watch the Demons. But hopefully I'm going to struggle, to be honestly, to watch. What's the thoughts, boys? Should I be watching both or just shut off the Storm, watch the Demons, watch the Storm?
Shut off one and watch the other.
Right. Well, the question is, Kaz, are you going to spoil it for me? You're not going to send me the Storm.
You can't trust Glenn. You can't trust Glenn. So you're going to have to. So you're going to have to watch both at the same time. What I want is for Seitel to record this whole 2-hour episode and see you absolutely just losing your fucking nana.
Well, I can set up a StreamYard
over here, and then over there.
I might set up.
And you got one eye over here, one eye over there. Yeah, I want to see you go Troppo 2 sports at one time. That'd be fantastic.
Well, the thing with the Melbourne Storm you do get is your team's given 100%. Not saying my Demons aren't, but God, that's the reason I jumped on the Storm in 98 was the reason to I knew that there was something new, something special about them. And I had an episode at 98 on 99 on the other night, and we talked about Melbourne Storm and the greats. And there's the jersey I was wearing in 98. Doesn't fit me like it did back in the day, let me tell you. But it's great to have it in a little piece of history. So while we got it, I can't, we've spoken about him tonight, Gretzky, and we're just going to finish the show with probably, I know you boys weren't here for it, but I'm hoping I've still got it on here. And here I have the famous 99s. We're just going to finish that with the show. So obviously we're done with the tributes after that, because I'm not going 101s. But here we go with the famous 99s. Boys, thanks for joining us. I know we've got a couple of shows coming up, so I'll let you know some more details coming soon. Great to have a sports chat. Fantastic to have the concussion chat and the pie debate. 3 episodes in one. That's why it's gone for 2 hours. But that's what happens when you start at 7 o'clock. Go and have your dinner, boys. And thanks for joining me. See ya.
See you, lads.